So let's talk about a concept that, in our modern culture, feels almost rebellious. And that concept is dedicated rest. We're going to dive into the source material to really uncover the original purpose of the Sabbath. And I think what we find just might change how you look at your entire week. Let's start with a world that we all know a little too well.
All right, our first section, a world without rest. Yeah, that probably sounds pretty familiar. The source material kicks things off by painting a picture of our modern dilemma. We're living in a world that has basically forgotten how to stop.
You know the one. It's a world totally driven by productivity.
Absolutely obsessed with efficiency. And it's defined by just constant motion, right? There's always another email to answer, another notification to check, another task to add to the to-do list. It's this relentless pace. And frankly, it can leave us feeling completely overwhelmed.
So, in the middle of all of that, doesn't taking a full day to just stop feel, well, a little irresponsible, maybe even lazy? This is the central tension, the big question that our source material really tackles head on. And to answer that question, we actually have to go way back to the very beginning. The source points to this really fascinating detail in the creation account that reveals what the first holy thing actually was. And you might be surprised. Okay, so let's think about this. Of everything in existence, what would you guess was the very first thing to be set apart, to be called sacred? Well, the source makes it really clear it wasn't a place, not a mountain, not a temple, not any specific location.
And it wasn't a sacred object either, like an ark or a tablet.
It was time, a specific rhythm, a cycle of work and rest. Before anything else was called holy, a day of rest was. Now that's a pretty profound idea.
The word that's used is sanctified, which really just means to be set apart for a holy use. So from the very dawn of creation, a rhythm of rest was set apart as sacred, woven right into the fabric of time itself.
And knowing this origin story, it completely reframes the whole purpose of the Sabbath. You see, it wasn't designed as some restrictive rule, but as something else entirely. This timeline here illustrates a really crucial point from the source material. Notice, the Sabbath begins at creation. It's established as a gift for all humanity. It's only centuries later at Sinai that it's formally given as a commandment to the nation of Israel. So its origin predates any specific law.
And think about what that means. When the Sabbath was established at creation, there were no Jews yet. There were no complex ceremonial laws. There wasn't even a need for sin offerings. This just points to how universal and foundational this idea really is.
And of course, Jesus himself confirmed this whole idea centuries later. This quote is so powerful. The practice is meant to serve us, to benefit us, to restore us. We weren't created to be servants to a day of the week. So what you end up with are two completely different mindsets. On one side, you have man for the Sabbath, which is all about rules, restrictions, and obligation. But on the other, you have Sabbath for man, which the source argues is the original intent. It's not a restriction, it's a gift. It's not an obligation, it's a liberation from that relentless cycle of work. And it's designed to focus on relationship.
But the source material takes this idea one step further, suggesting the Sabbath isn't just about physical rest. It's also a profound spiritual act. So here's the crucial point. Yes, it's about stopping your labor, your job, your chores. But on a deeper level, the invitation is to stop relying on your own effort. It's a deliberate choice to let go of the belief that everything depends on you and your constant hustle. The source puts it so beautifully. Practicing the Sabbath is like saying, the world will not fall apart if I stop for a day. My life is in your hands and I trust you enough to rest. It totally transforms rest from an act of quitting into a powerful act of trust. And when you think about it that way, in our nonstop 24/7 culture, choosing to deliberately stop and trust, isn't that a truly radical act of faith? It goes against everything our world screams at us to do. So we'll end with the challenge posed by the source material. This week, instead of asking what rest takes from you, what productivity you might lose, try asking this: what was this gift of time intended to give? Because maybe, just maybe, the very thing you think you're losing is what you actually stand to gain the most.